today I have in my showroom the MBS Magnum. Now this is going to be the first time I have ever burned this stove. For those of you who are familiar with my first burn videos, this is where I show you lighting up the stove for the very first time. Every time that we do a first burn, we do not take the stove from 0 to 10. So we do not take the stove from cold to excessively hot very quick. It's important to break in the stove slowly, starting with a small to a medium to a hot fire. This does multiple things. It allows the paint to cure on the stove, and it also makes sure that you don't overheat the stove too quickly and warp it. Now, because this stove does have cast iron components on it, all the more especially, it can't be heated up too quickly because cast iron is susceptible to cracking from extreme temperature changes, okay? So for people who have cabins, like let's say you have a hunting cabin and you want to put a cook stove in your hunting cabin, I would not typically recommend a cast iron cook stove in a hunting cabin because of this reason, that it needs to be warmed up slowly. So if it's a house that's extremely cold and you want to get it hot, really quick, the cast iron stove is generally not going to be a good option. Cast iron stoves are going to take like 40 minutes to an hour before they're good and hot and producing heat off the stove, whereas a steel stove is going to be much quicker, probably about 20 minutes or so. So this is why, different stoves for different needs. So I'm going to light up the stove. I'm going to start with my kindling fire and take you through this process. Alright, here we go. So I'm going to start with small kindling, as always. Never paper, good dry kindling. You can see they're really small pieces. These catch on fire nice and quick. Okay, I want to point this out because the door auto closes. It's a pretty hard slam. Pretty much any cook stove that's imported from the Europe region is going to be like that because it's a requirement. There is a wire down here that you can see that is pulling the door back. That wire could be disconnected. That is up to your discretion. This auto close is a safety regulation requirement in Europe, not in the USA. But because it's an import, it just comes standard. But I do want to let people know, because I pointed that out on some La Nordica stoves, and people were like, oh my gosh, I never want to buy this stove, but because of that. But it can easily be removed, so don't let that be a deterrent for you. Now in my case, I just want to be careful that I don't slam my fingers in the door when I'm loading my fire. So the firebox on this is pretty decent. Like, this log length is pretty standard. I think about 16 inches is what I got. Have to measure it, but I mean, yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm just gonna TP my kindling here and get it lit up. On the cook stove, when you go to light your fire, you do want to make sure that your damper controls are going to be wide open so that you get proper airflow to get it started. But you do not want to activate your oven, okay? Especially when you're doing your first burn and everything's curing. I don't activate the oven ever on the first burn, and I also don't ever cook on the stove the first burn because of the smells and toxins that come off the stove. So keep that in mind. If you're sensitive, your family member's sensitive, asthma, anything like that, you're going to want to burn the stove outside because it definitely, as the paint is curing and stuff is curing, it does produce a smoke and a smell. So beware of that. Got my handy dandy low torch. So yeah, I have my oven closed. I've got my damper controls wide open here at the bottom, and I'm gonna get this lit up. So that quickly you can hear that draft picking up. The stove has really nice airflow. It's taking off nicely. I am going to, always give you guys temperature readings throughout this burn process. So now that it's started up, I'm gonna let it burn about 15 to 20 minutes and give you guys some updated temperature readings. So like I say, I burn my first burn with the door open like that. So actually this stove in particular was repainted. See this smoke? This is not coming out of the hole. This is paint burning off. This particular one had freight damage and some scratches, so we did repaint the stove. And fresh paint, yeah, it smokes and it's kind of toxic. But so far, this is my kindling fire. I am not even 5 minutes into this burn, and look at how nice that took off. Super easy to light, guys, no paper. Why no paper? Because no need for the extra fly ash. Okay, the stove has been burning 15 to 20 minutes. I want to give you guys some temperature readings so you know where like the stove temperature is at that point. On the oven side of the stove, the side panel is going to be 153 at the top, 52 degrees at the bottom. Cooktop over the oven to the far left-hand side when facing the front is 249 degrees. Center cook plate is at 348 degrees. The center of the plate over the firebox is at 461 degrees. And then the firebox side of the stove, the top is at 198 degrees, the bottom is at 50. So, I think my oven damper got pulled out, which it shouldn't be. One thing I will say is this stove does have really good airflow. Lenorica's do as well, but that amount of kindling that I put in, I walked away for about 15 minutes and I came back and it was almost like out. I had just a couple of coals to add a few more in there. So I want to keep it at this burn a little bit longer just based on where our temperatures are at right now and starting with our low temperature burns. After a little bit here, after this set burns down, so I'm going to burn this will literally probably be like 10 minutes. So I'll burn it about 25-30 minutes on the low setting, and then I'll go into my medium burn where I'll add 1 to 2 logs to the firebox and I'll update you guys with some temperature readings. I am about 30 minutes into this. I did reload my kindling, it's burned down. I'm going to load this up into my medium burn. I have 2 small pieces of wood here. This is a smaller firebox, so I would say that this is going to be good for what I got here. You can get the longer wood lengths in at an angle. If your wood is a little shorter, then it's easier to get them front and back. The fireboxes on the import stoves generally are a little bit smaller. I am about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours into my overall burn. I am at my medium burn right now. It's basically burnt down. That's a bed of coals, and I just put a couple pieces of kindling to kick it up real quick, and I'm going to give you guys these medium temperature burns. Center cook plate over the firebox is at 609 degrees. The center of the stove is at 450. This is at, left-hand side is at 358. Directly over this coal is going to be at 313. Side of the oven is going to be at 250 degrees. Wow. So this oven side gets pretty hot. 65 degrees at the bottom of the stove. Right hand side of the stove by the firebox is at 150. Bottom is at 56 degrees. Glass is reading at 470 degrees. All temperatures are taken in Fahrenheit. So we're at the medium burn stage. We are pretty much burned down. I am going to go ahead and load into our high burn. All right, so about 2 hours in, medium burn down, we're gonna head into our hotter burn. This particular stove does have pretty good airflow, so it might move a little quicker than some other stoves. I will say definitely when I first lit the stove, I was pretty surprised at how quickly all the kindling burned out. Although it is pretty common for these kind of import stoves with this design. The Nordicas also have pretty high airflow as well and burn pretty hot. So my hot burn, let's see, I think I can probably get 4. All right, three logs is what it's looking like. This firebox has a pretty good angle to it. So what I would say is that if you're crafty, I probably could have got the 4th log in there. It's the first time I'm burning the stove. The more you burn it, the easier it's gonna get to figure out how to load the box in there. I could definitely have fit more wood around it if I was stacking it for like a full overnight burn. But right now, I'm running the stove on wide open. So all of these reading and measurements that I'm giving you for like times and temperatures are all going to be as if the stove was wide open from the time that you started. So, yeah, we're gonna head into our hot burn and see how long it burns with this load of wood on full high, wide open, and see what kind of temperature readings that we reach. I do expect to reach pretty hot temperatures on this stove based on the airflow and how hot it's burning, just on the low and medium burns. Here we are burning into our hot burn. My logs, if you can see this, are extended past this log grate. And that log grate also kind of tells you like, hey, your wood should be behind that for proper airflow. My glass is a little dirty because it's too close. So you can see the glass is clean here where there's a gap and the wood's not right up against the glass. Okay, I am now 4 hours into this overall burn. I've got some pretty decent temperatures going. You can see that the fire is glowing nicely, so I'm gonna give you guys some more temperature readings. Directly over the oven, we have 532 degrees in front of the flue collar. The round plate is at 433 degrees. Center is at 629 degrees. The cook plate area is at 889 degrees. Top of the side panel is at 366 degrees. Bottom of the panel is at 84 degrees. Firebox side of the stove is at 272 at the top of the panel and 89 at the lower of the panel. So this is going to be our high temperature burns after the stove burning for 4 hours with a very nice hot fire going. I really hope that you guys find these first burn videos helpful. If you guys like my videos, please don't forget, give me a quick little thumbs up. That helps me out so much. If you think they're educational, informational, and beneficial to you, please share them with a friend, and don't forget to click that subscribe button in the corner of the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. God bless. Have a wonderful day.